My name is Ashley Anderson, and my educational philosophy is I believe it is very important to build a positive teacher student relationship, as this helps create a safe and comfortable learning environment for students to reach their full potential. Through this, I acknowledge there is a range of learners, and this will benefit me to know exactly how I can differentiate my learning to allow development in all my students. I see myself as a facilitator of learning, coupled with a positive and empowering approach into student education. Through learning experiences, I encourage the students to become more active participants throughout the community and challenge themselves in all aspects of their learning. I pride myself on keeping up to date on all pedagogical approaches and opportunities for my students to grow. During my last placement, my initial goal was to get to know the students as best I could, finding out their interests and the best ways in which they learn. I did this through questioning and observing the ways they interact with each other in the classroom and with the teacher. I noticed many things with the students, such as who was confident in answering questions and who kept quiet. Trying to select different students during the modelling time of the lesson was a main focus so that my students each got a turn into explaining their point of view. This allowed me to see how each student understood the lesson and who might need some extra time to go through the concept. After seeing and learning about each student, it allowed me to focus on differentiating their learning in ways that I taught and in the content itself. This is a large focus for me in the classroom, as I never want a student not to feel challenged or have no idea what they're doing, as this can have negative effects on their learning in the future. Dewey explains the importance of educating the students on their interests, and to expand their interests, which expands their world, to develop their interests. If I can gather information from my students to teach in a progressive way, I will be challenging my students to become critical thinkers. According to the EITSL standards, number 1, professional knowledge. Your students deserve your very best. Having the professional knowledge as to what is best for each individual child is key to teaching your students. So this is the first EITSL standard. Know how your students learn. Collecting information on the students is very important, as this allows us to, as the teacher, to focus on each individual child's learning style, being auditory, visual, kinesthetic learners, and adapting their teaching styles to target these. The strand is 1.2, Understanding how students learn. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding of research into how students learn and the implications for learning. As a teacher, you need to see that every child is different in their personalities to their interests, then down to their learning. If you treat your whole class in the same way every time, you are being detrimental to some of your students' education. Some of the strands of the curriculum you can focus on your teaching to encourage your students to learn through experiences and guide their own learning are play-based, inquiry, art-focused, and integrating the curriculum. I've experienced inquiry learning and seen how the different students have been able to go off on different strands of the topic to reach the end goal of learning something new the way they wanted to learn it. The students were excited to learn, as it gave them the opportunity to be themselves and focus on ways that help them learn. It also showed me how the different learners chose to learn. There were a mixture of students making items through to students researching and writing facts and information down for a brochure piece. This can be hard to manage, as many students are doing different things around the classroom, which focuses into the next strand, being create and maintain supportive and safe learning environment. I found in my professional placement that classroom management can be tough to deal with, making sure all students are staying on task during lesson and follow the instructions provided. I would love to create a safe environment for students to grow into themselves. You need to be able to support your students and allow them to have no put downs amongst other students. An important part of my classroom management is having a classroom expectation list on the board before we even start the lesson. Always reflecting back on this is very important. The strand 4.2, Manage classroom activities. Demonstrate the capacity to organise classroom activities and provide clear directions. Main focus is always refer back to the classroom expectations. An example of this is I set up a treasure hunt for the class. We mentioned the expectations at the start of the lesson so the students knew exactly how quiet they had to be, how much the noise level. We managed to set up the different intervals in the classroom so that students were able to walk around without bumping into each other, use the space effectively, the equipment, and they had boundaries. The noise levels were higher than usual, but a gentle reminder to keep inside voices as they were engaged in conversations about the topic, which was good to hear. I could have conversations and give feedback where it didn't seem as important for the students if they received negative feedback. This leads into the AITSL standard 5. Assess, provide feedback, and report on student learning. It is important to measure their growth before and after each individual topic. This can help give feedback back to parents and back for the students so then they can develop further. 5.2. Provide feedback for the students on their learning. Demonstrate an understanding of the purpose and provide timely and appropriate feedback to students about their learning. As I mentioned above, growth is very important. This can also help with any misconceptions the student may have. After giving feedback back to them, they need to be able to process the information and use it again back when they redo the topic. It is important so that I, as a teacher, can differentiate the types of feedback. Again, this comes back to knowing your students. So to be able to differentiate the feedback either verbally, written, or any other way that the student may receive feedback the best way they can, if it's before or after or during the topic that we are doing. An example of feedback is my placement teacher sometimes doesn't write comments on the students' work. For example, they might have written an essay. Because the students only look at the mark. So what he sometimes will do is he'll sit down with them and he'll go through it so then he knows the students are actually receiving the feedback and taking on board what he's saying rather than just looking straight at the mark, not at the comments, so then they can improve. When I'm in the classroom, I try my best to go around to each student to track their progress. This allows me to see where they are up to and how they're tracking and any common misconceptions that the class may have, so I can take that on board and find a better way to teach the concept next time. This is the classroom giving me feedback. For some students, that one-on-one feedback and direction is important to get them on track, and for others, simply correcting their work and having a conversation about it is all they need to know that they are on track. In conclusion, education can be seen to many in different ways. There is no written recipe on how to manage or teach your students. Being flexible and understanding will give you, as a teacher, the best experience as it allows you to give your students your very best every time.